Hello and welcome to Flourishing. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is a pleasure to have you tuning into this podcast today. Thank you so much for joining. I am your host, Flourish, and today we're going to be talking about nursing. Is it worth it? Is it worth going into nursing? Is the job worth it? And I'm going to take it from the angle of my experience. I mean, we've just had a interview with Ange, our very good friend, family friend, and godmother to our to one of our sons. And she talked about her profession, being a dietitian, and I just thought I would do this section in order to just give you a little bit of an insight. I'm not really going to go into depths in terms of the topics that are covered in your nursing courses and stuff like that. I'm just going to give you just touch on why I went into it, what challenges I faced, and what I would say to my younger self going into nursing. Just a little overview, and just so if there's anyone out there who's just wondering about the profession or even actually thinking about it, you kind of have an idea of what someone like myself feel about it before I went into it, and even now as I'm still in it. So my why for nursing, I would say it's actually in two parts. It's my why when I started, probably 11 years ago now, was because I left college. I had no idea what I was going to do at university, and I was just advised to go into nursing, and so I did. So my why literally is I was advised to, so I did. But my why now is completely different. My why is because I want to. I want to because I love the fact that I am making a positive, practical difference in the lives of people. People come into hospital, and actually it's really daunting going into hospital when you're really unwell. And when people are unwell, they are really vulnerable. They're either in pain, in great discomfort. And to be in a position where I can help to alleviate that pain, through medication, through, some, ways of positioning or whatever it may be, just brings so much satisfaction. You can see the change in the patient, and it's just amazing. So I love the fact that I can actually take a practical step to just help someone get better. Now, in nursing, you have 4 different categories. So when you go into nursing, you either go into it as an adult nurse, child nurse, mental health nurse, or learning disabilities. These are the 4 different categories, and within those categories there's so much subdivision as well. I went into adult nursing because that I just felt like, one, that was what I could stomach at the time, as in terms of like that's what I knew I could do. And also I also knew that doing adult nursing would give me the I guess the base or the standing. This was my mentality then, the foundation if I decide to branch into children or mental health or learning disability. Like it just gives me that flexibility. Children nursing, I take my hats off so much for anyone out there who does children nursing. I mean, a couple of years after actually doing my nursing career, and having kids of my own, I literally don't think I can even do children nursing. Like the child will come in crying because they're in pain, and I'll be crying because they're crying, and there's going to be a whole lot of crying going on there. So I literally just feel like I just don't have, it's not that I don't have the heart for it. I think I'm just so sensitive, and actually it's better that I know myself now than before. But don't get me wrong, when an adult is in pain, it breaks my heart. But I guess I also know that an adult has a level of comprehension and a level of emotional maturity to be able to handle that, whereas children, they're very vulnerable, and they're in pain, so they cry, and it just breaks my heart when I see children out there. So any children nurses out there, I take my hats to you. You are amazing. Please carry on your good work. So so in my nursing, I started off so as soon as I graduated, I went into cardiovascular nursing. So working in a ward, in a cardiovascular ward, for about 3-4 years. And then I moved into ITU, and then I moved into freelancing and working in A&E and going into different areas of, well, different speciality really. Where the job is where I go. So doing like agency work, and my journey into nursing has changed. These different like cardiovascular nursing, ITU, and A&E has literally helped to form my experience as a nurse today. And I really appreciate that. Now, there's been many challenges, definitely many challenges I've faced in nursing. And it's one of the, well, there's many that stood out in my mind, but I just want to highlight one to start off with. As a student nurse, you're literally always like with your mentor or your co-mentor all the time. So it's just nice because you get that support. But one of the challenges I remember facing so distinctively is the transition between being a student nurse and being a registered nurse. So as a student nurse, whenever you're doing medications, whenever you're doing your wound dressing, anything you're doing with the patient, you're always having your support network there, your mentor, your co-mentor with you. But there was this day that I've qualified, I've got my PIN, I'm, there giving medication, about to do it. But then I looked over my shoulder as to say, oh, is this okay, to my mentor, only to realize that, no, I'm the nurse. I am the nurse here. I'm the one doing it. And I just thought, wow, that change was just so immense for me. And I just thought, okay, everything I've learned from my mentor, I can put it into practice. I took my time. I made sure I check, giving the medication, do all the right checks, right patient, right name, right drug, right time, and all these things. Like, I was just like, oh my goodness, this is the nurse. I am the nurse in this situation now. So that was a big stepping point as I moved forward. Then there is this communication aspect of nursing as well. In nursing, you have a range of different people with different personalities, with different different attitudes, from different cultures, and trying to communicate with all these different personalities can be quite challenging. And it's learning how to do that, learning that yes, you might have some people who are very vibrant in their character or very bold speaking, but you also have some colleagues who are quite timid and quite subtle. And how do you make sure both people are getting their points across, both people are feeling like they've been heard? That is quite a challenge in itself. Dealing with patients who are anxious, or even relatives who are anxious as well, being able to communicate with them, being able to give them that confidence that you as the nurse know what it is you're talking about, but also you're here to support them and help them, is extremely hard when you're the nurse and you're really trying to help, but you have either the patient or even the relative being quite aggressive towards you in their tone of voice. And this aggression sometimes just comes out of frustration or either misinformation given, and that builds up. So, as a nurse, you just have to learn how to, keep your calm, keep your cool, but literally communicate in an effective way in the situation that you're in. And if you feel as though you're not getting through, learning to know when you've kind of reached your limit and to bring someone on or someone into the situation to help de-escalate the matter. There's a particular situation that happened. I don't even know how many years ago, probably a while back anyway, where one of my, so as a nurse you deal with death. I won't say all the time as in you deal with it every day, because that's not necessarily true, but you deal in your nursing career, from being a student to where I am now, I've dealt with a patient dying, doing the last offices and things like that. Now, what I now know is that when I was a student, I've never really experienced death within a family or a friend or anything like that. So dealing with a patient dying then was completely different. It was just like, oh my goodness, this is a way of life. It's really sad, and it's really heartbreaking for the relatives, and for yourself as well, because you've been looking after this patient and the patient passes away, and it does stick with you. However, when you actually experience death within a family, when you yourself have actually gone through it, I realized that there's a big difference. And I remember a particular situation where I personally had a close relative pass away, and that was an emotion I was dealing with myself. So I we all go through different grieving stages, isn't it? And I kind of feel like grieving never really ends. It just is there with you, for as long as it needs to be there, really. And I remember this patient was really unwell, and we, as the medical team, the nursing team, were doing everything we could to make sure he was, been fighting the infection and, just getting through this illness that he was going through. And then his heart just gave up, and his heart gave up and he died. And during that moment, I just felt like I just broke down in tears, and I cried and I cried and I cried and I cried. And part of those emotion was me feeling like we've done everything we could but still couldn't save this life, and also seeing the relatives being so heartbroken and so upset, but also understanding that the patient has been unwell for a while, and they kind of knew it was coming, but they didn't expect it to be this soon. And then another part of that was, for me, now death means something different now. I mean, obviously death was still death when I was a student nurse, and it's still death now as a qualified nurse, but the experience now is different. I know I can sympathize with the fact that you've just lost someone that you love. The emotion was there, especially the fact that I've experienced a family member dying and passing away, and me going through that grief as well myself. It was just a whole load of emotion that I just had to let it out. And thank goodness I had a very supportive colleagues that allowed me just to take a breather, because you have to give your colleagues that space, because everyone deals with it differently. And it's sometimes it's hard. Yeah, the challenge is it's hard to be able to deal with a patient dying when you've done all that you can within your might to save their lives, but still they go. And the challenge that we face is being able to deal with a range of situations that is affecting our emotions, and learning how can I manage this even in the midst of my colleagues, in the midst of the patients. And and then you don't just look after the one patient, you look after the many. So you have one patient who is really unwell and really fighting for their life, then you go to look after another patient who's recovered from what they've recovered from and getting ready to go home. So switching from being happy for that patient, that you're happy that they're getting to go home, that they are feeling well, they're free of pain, and then switching to, oh, this other patient isn't well, I need to do this and I need to do that, when is this due, when is that due, and just kind of dealing with that constant change of emotion can be a challenge, but it's something that comes with time. So it's really interesting now actually talking about it, because I didn't realize this distinction between what death means to me when I was a student and what death is meaning to me now as a qualified nurse. So there is definitely a range of challenges. I mean, I only touched but a few, but there's a lot involved in that. Now, talking more about the positive experiences that I've faced and that has struck me over the years. When I discharge my patients home and they're happy to go home and they are well, they're free of pain, and they're confident with the plan that is already set for them, I am happy. That is one of the positive experiences that really makes me so happy, that a patient has come in really unwell and have recovered and they're going home. I think that brings joy to my heart. Being able to be attentive to a patient and noticing when they're unwell and giving the right treatment in a timely manner, that does matter. I remember a particular situation of a patient who they say there's this nursing feeling. You just get this nudge about a patient. Sometimes patients can look all right, but the numbers are not great, or the numbers are not great, but the patient looks all right. And I remember this patient, he, without giving too much detail, but he just wasn't well. And I've been monitoring him throughout the night and just keeping an eye on him. I just didn't feel like things was right, and I escalated it, told the doctor, only to find that the things that I highlighted at the time that I highlighted was really key, and it was a sign for them to realize that actually this patient needed a non-invasive treatment and care. So when I came back from the next day for my night shift, the doctor was saying to me, well done for pointing that out. The patient did need attention. So being able to be attentive, be aware, you're not just looking at the figures, the numbers, what's the numbers saying. You're also looking at your patients, but you're also not just looking at the patient, you're also looking at the figures, and just making sure all of that is marrying up together. But also, most importantly, you're going with your gut instinct. I think a lot of times people underestimate the this gut instincts that we have as human beings. When something doesn't feel right, it's most probably because it's not right, and it's just not ignoring that, because that can be another pointer to allow you to kind of say, is there something more we can do? Is there something more we need to look into for this particular person? So when patients express their gratitude, and they when you care for them, that is lovely. It really shows that the efforts that you've put into it, the commitments, the care that you've given them, they really appreciate it. Most of them will send you cards, chocolates sometimes, and just to show their gratitude for the help that you've done for them. And that that is a nice positive experience that we take with us as we continue in our care. As we continue with our care as a team, really. I love the fact that I can go home knowing that I've done everything I can to help the patients that I've cared for, and allowing them to move forward positively in their health. I really do enjoy that. There's a lot of positive experiences that I have experience, but I do remember one particular one where this patient, just took me to the side and held my hand and said, and just looked in my eyes and just expressed her gratitude for the fact that I cared for her, for the fact that she just felt my genuineness. Like when I looked after her, my smile, I remember her pointing out that my smile just brightened her up, and it was just so nice, because to me, I'm just doing my everyday work, I'm just doing my job. I'm just making sure my patients are fine, but for her to just grab me at the moment and say, look, I need you to know that your smile lifts me up, and your laughter and your joy really makes me feel like you care, and things like that. That just melts my heart. So it's really nice when patients just show their gratitude in the different ways that they do. Now, moving forward, what can I do as a nurse? Now, as I said, I've kind of been, I wouldn't really say it's a standstill. It's just like a stage in my nursing career where it's in a little bit of a hold, because I when you have family, something has to compromise. You either continue in your job and outsource some of the things that you need to do in the house, or you commit to the house and reduce your working life. So, but there is I chose to just freelance a little bit, so work as an agency nurse and just allow myself that flexibility so that I can be part of my family life and also still continue my career. But there is a range of different speciality in nursing. My goodness, there's a depth of it. I can't even go through it, but I'll touch on a few. Even as an adult qualified nurse, I can go into being a diabetic specialist nurse, a tissue fiability, a stomach care specialist nurse, alcohol liaison, school nursing. You can do practice nurse, you can do health visiting. You can specialize in critical care nursing, which is what I did when I was working in ITU, and I wanted to further that, but obviously I couldn't at the time. You can go into palliative care nursing. There's a range. You can transition into midwifery, or even potentially do your medicine. Go into medicine. You can navigate into research or auditing. There's just a depth of ideas out there. You can even set up your own business, either in a nursing staffing agency, or as a residential or nursing care home, or even going to freelancing as a nurse blogger. This list isn't this list I've mentioned isn't by far exhaustive. There is when you take time to do some research, there's a vast amount of areas you can go into in the nursing industry, and it is encouraging. It is really encouraging to know that that option is available there. And this I mentioned this list, like I said, there's the 4 categories. There's the adult nursing, child nursing, mental health, and learning disability. Within those areas, there's also specialized fields that you can go into as well. Now now looking at it, what, 11 years on, or is it 12 years on? What now, knowing what I know now, what will I say to my younger self as she embarks on her nursing course? I really took some time to think about this, and I think there's a lot that you can say, but without kind of overwhelming someone who is wanting to start, or thinking about starting, or just curious. One of the things I would mention is humility is key as you enter into your nursing career. I think sometimes we underestimate the role that we play. It's so important to realize that humility plays a huge role in our nursing career. So I will encourage my younger self to pray for God to help you to become more humble. Another thing I will say is people do really feel they really feel it when you're genuinely caring for them. So pray for God to help you have compassion towards people. I will say study as hard as you can. Learn more, as there is always things to learn. I will also say nursing is both a practical and a theory based skill, but the practical aspect is completely priceless. Honestly, it's so priceless. So every placement that you have, every nursing placement that you have, see it as being a priceless opportunity to learn and to develop. And lastly, I'll say have fun and enjoy, as you'll be making a difference, a positive difference in the lives of many people you're going to encounter. So, is it worth it? Is nursing worth it? Yes, definitely for me. For me, nursing is definitely worth it. It's giving me the education and the career stability I needed when I had kids. Even before I had kids, when I had kids, and even now as I freelance, it's giving me the flexibility. I think sometimes it comes a point in your life where, you've got your career and you've got your family, and something has to give. And nursing has allowed me just to navigate that quite easily, to be able to have the balance of both worlds. So for me, it's really been a huge benefit, and also I've been able to impact the lives of so many people. Some people I don't remember, and some people I do. But what I do notice is that the people you care for, they remember you more than you remember them, only because you, as a nurse, you see so many people, you're dealing with so many people. But for that particular individual, the impact you've had in their lives will stay with them forever. So for me, it's worth it, because not only does it benefit me personally, it also benefits other people that I encounter. So I hope this has helped you if you're thinking about nursing, or if you are just wondering about the profession. There's a lot of things I haven't covered. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I've only but touched the surface. I just thought it would be just nice to just kind of give you a little bit of an insight. Now, all the things I've said, they're all my own opinion. It's not reflective of other nurses. It literally is just what I feel. And, there's other things I could have added and I could have said. So it's not, what I've said so far is not exhaustive either, but it's just a little taster of what this career as a nurse is like. I hope that's helped you, and I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Please join me in the next episode. Take care. Goodbye.